Talking guys about nuclear armament. Basically, I'm going to explain it first. So, this armament refers to the act of reducing or eliminating nuclear weapons in the state of a nuclear-free world. So, reducing the chances of having nuclear war. The entire, my first, my main claim is nuclear armament is the right way to go about nuclear weapons. First, secondary claim, the entire world would be more secure if the planet were free of nuclear weapons. Supporting details, the very existence of nuclear weapons leaves open possibilities that nuclear exchange might take place. This has happened before in the past, as in the Cuban Missile Crisis that happened between the United States and the USSR. Or even an accidental launch, which has happened before. As an example, I found from an article. In 1979, someone fed a war game simulation into a North American Air Force defense computer, thinking the alert was real. Fighter planes were scrambled and nuclear bombs were ready before the error was discovered. So if someone didn't find an error, they would have actually shot the missiles and it would have started a war, leading into a war. And in the absence of total nuclear armament, terrorists acquire nuclear weapons. So until there's no weapons ever, terrorists will always try to find a way to attain them. Such a scenario has been more probable since the USSR dissolved. So when USSR was split up, the ones who decided to stop using them, they were sent put away. There have been many reports of attempts to smuggle weapons, grade plutonium from Russia. The fewer nuclear weapons there are in the world, the fewer are for terrorists to try to steal. Every step towards the abolition of nuclear weapons would increase our security. My second claim is the possession of nuclear weapons is very costly and not the right approach to spend our money. According to an article in the LA Times, the U.S. spent at least $52.4 billion on nuclear weapons in 2008. This budget, which spans from agencies not just from the Defense Department, but from other departments, and basically, instead of using that money to buy weapons, why don't we just use it to protect ourselves, or to start getting rid of the weapons. Okay. Instead, we should. Although the size of our overall budget is troubling, another concern is that we spend so little on initiatives to minimize the risk of nuclear and radiological attacks. More than 17 years after the end of the Cold War, it may come as a surprise to most Americans that the U.S. still spends relatively large annual sums upgrading and maintaining its nuclear arsenal. That's about $29 billion. Developing ballistic missile defenses, which is $9.2 billion every year, and addressing the deferred environmental health costs. So basically, testing the bomb, see the effects it'll have on the environment. That's about $8.3 billion they spend every year. In total, in 2008, it was $52.4 billion they spent just in that year. According to globalzero.org, which is a website that specializes in calculating how much each country spends on nuclear weapons, or the ones that actually use it, U.S. spent about $61.3 billion in 2011 on just nuclear weapons. Despite the shrinking arsenal, the United States still plans to increase its investments on nuclear weapons by 20%. So it costs about $85 billion over the next year, so per year. And spend an additional $100 billion on upgrading strategic nuclear forces during this period, and more buildings, more factories, and such. The United States will then spend untold billions to operate the Armada in a 50-year lifespan. So between 2030 to 2080, they spend on increasing more money to use on that. My third claim is nuclear weapons are just immoral and illegal to use on other countries. Nuclear weapons represent humankind's ultimate confrontation with the natural environment that sustains us. So basically, when you use nuclear weapons, you destroy ecosystems, you destroy humanity, and unless you find that right, The purpose of these weapons is wholesale destruction on massive scale, which affects all forms of life. Such is the threat of life posed by nuclear weapons that the International Court of Justice, the court of the highest from all over the world, they come together to create the International Court of Justice. In 1996, the landmark ruling on the general illegal activities of making nuclear weapons illegal stated that the destructive power of nuclear weapons cannot be contained in either space or time. They have the potential to destroy all civilization and the entire ecosystem at the time. That came from a judge that ruled that it was illegal to use it. And the threat or use of nuclear weapons have been declared illegal by then at the time. So, like, there's no, so you can't threaten anybody. If you threaten a country, that would be considered illegal. So you can't threaten another country, you're going to bomb them, or else, everyone else could gang up on you, because that's the declaration of war against everyone around the United Nations. And you can't use weapons. So there's no way going around being proud by being in trouble by using weapons. And finally, some countries have already given up nuclear weapons, showing that it's possible for the nation to be secure without them. So three former Soviet republics, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine, used to have weapons, but they stopped using them, and they were doing really fine. Also, Brazil eliminated their nuclear weapons, even though they were going beyond, their technology was going good, but they stopped, and they're doing fine too. In 1996, the U.S. Secretary of Defense met with the defense ministers of Russia and Ukraine to celebrate Ukraine's change in status from the world's third largest nuclear weapons to a state where there's no nuclear weapons at all. On the occasions, these defense leaders planted sunflowers and scattered sunflower seeds in a former missile base. And the U.S. Secretary of Defense will encourage sunflowers instead of missiles, and the soil will ensure peace for future generations.
All right, your proposition sounds like it's a value claim. I think that you need to have a stronger preview of what the supporting points are. Internally, you had some listing, but I thought that the second point got a little bit lost. It was a little bit clearer when you got to your third point. There's some examples that you rely on. There are a whole bunch of presuppositions that are being made in the argument, and again, they tend to focus on value issues rather than issues of fact, and this is really, a different kind of assignment. Your presentation, I think, is a little bit problematic. You need to project a little bit more. Sometimes you're swallowing your words, and you need to be a little bit more forceful in the presentation. All right. I don't want to yell at people in particular, but I do want to point out that I have asked folks not to use their cell phones and laptops during your classmates' speeches, and I've noticed a number of people have been doing so. And this is your first warning before the explosion. If you think a nuclear explosion is bad, wait till you see me going off. It's just not going to be a pretty sight. All right, so could you please, everybody's a little anxious about speaking. Everybody's worked hard. It's tough to get up there and give a speech and look at an audience where nobody's paying any attention to you. And I have no patience for that. All right? So please refrain from using the electronic devices during the speeches. All right. We got a slow start tonight, and I was a little wordy on the speakers. I would like to get in. We have 3 more speakers scheduled. I think we can only get in one more. I'd like to get in one more tonight before we go. Does one of you want to make sure that you go tonight? I'd be happy to take you if you have a preference. If not, I'll just take the next person in the queue. All right, nobody's jumping up. Melissa, you'll be our last speaker for the evening. And then Michael